What is up, everybody? Welcome on into another stream, another show, your daily dose of nerdy content. I am Josh. You are Chat. It is Thursday, January 16th. Can you freaking believe it, man? Can you freaking believe it? 3 more days until TikTok goes away forever, and that's real. And also kind of crazy. Not really sure what to think about that, but hey, it is what it is. Crazy. January, over halfway over already. I can't believe it. Can you believe it? Because I believe it. And look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'll say right off the bat. You know, not to start off on a bad note or whatever, but I'm tired, boss. I'm burnt out. Okay, the last couple of weeks have been crazy. There's been a lot of stuff going on, including a brand new baby. It's like this human pops up and they're just there all the time in your house, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, she's putting together crazy discords, hate campaigns, rallying the neighborhood. She's a pistol. A lot going on. And I'm super burnt out. Now look, we're gonna get it done today. We're gonna get it done tomorrow. I should be able to get at least 1 more, maybe 2 more videos out this week as well. But I am gonna delay the Diamond Lounge stream. We were supposed to have a Diamond Lounge stream on Friday. You know what I need to do? Honestly, is just sleep. I need to sleep more. So this weekend, I'm hoping to catch up on sleep and just get my mental right and then attack next week a little bit better as well. So unfortunately, no Diamond Lounge on Friday. So I just wanted to put that out on Front Street. However, we do actually have some cool stuff to talk about today. So I wanted to go over the Daredevil trailer impact. I have some thoughts. I've been thinking a lot about it. I wonder if you guys been thinking about it. I think yesterday's trailer was epic. I think it's a big sign of things to come from Marvel. And I want to do that thing that I sometimes do. And I'm going to get way too confident in this show. And I'm going to dream big. And I want to tell you some crazy things that I think Daredevil is going to do. I'm going to make some bold predictions today. So I want to go over that. We'll have a nice little Daredevil segment. We have to talk about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have updates about Doctor Strange 3 and Shang-Chi 2. Both of them filming in 2026. There's an article that Charles Murphy did that I want to talk about because I think he's right as far as Doctor Strange 3. But there's an aspect to this story with Doctor Strange 3 and Shang-Chi that people are not talking about. It has to do with the MCU reboot. So I want to get over that. Then, later on in the show, I want to watch a video and react to it with you guys. This is from Nando V Movies. Maybe some of you guys have seen this guy's channel before. He made a video about a month ago called 2025 will be make or break for Marvel. And the video is performing quite well for him. It's kind of being passed around in some fan circles. So I want to react to it with you guys as well. So overall, it's going to be a good stream. It's going to be a good show. But also, I apologize. I'm kind of burnt out. We'll do the best we can, okay? And look, Adam's sharing this stuff in the Discord. You don't say that, Adam. Adam's listening to freaking tennis players on Spotify anyway. Michael Johns, thank you for 12 months on Twitch. Man, I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Much love. My most anticipated project till Doomsday. Yeah, I think that's fair. This project looks dope. I have some high hopes for Daredevil, man. I'm really looking forward to while that show is airing, a lot of the coverage we're gonna do, the vibe check on social media for it. Just in what I saw yesterday, as far as the reaction from the trailer, I've got some high hopes. I'm gonna talk about it in a bit here. I expect some great things, which will be cool. Burned out, the year just started. Yeah, I know. Well, look, it's not like burned out like I'm gonna quit YouTube again, but it's more like The amount of things that I've been juggling over the past couple of weeks has been a little crazy, and I haven't really given myself time to process and actually, fully recover from some of these things. It's been like a scramble, and it's just been crazy. So, it's a balancing act because I still feel like I can stream today, and I feel like I can stream tomorrow, and between today and tomorrow, I should be able to at least get one more video out on the main channel. And get like all the clips out and everything like that. It's funny. I was explaining to Elisa last night, just kind of like my plan as far as, we're sort of entering a new era where we're really trying to take the production a lot more seriously on this channel, on the clips channel, and on the main channel. We're going to start doing a lot more ads. I've sort of been talking to you guys about the ads and some of the changes that are coming to the channels. And I'm really trying to take stuff in a very, very good direction for the brand overall. And I was explaining how hopefully within the next 3 months, I'm going to be able to hire some people to do at least part of what I'm doing right now. And I was like, yeah, and if I get somebody to do all this stuff, all I have to do every day is research and do the live streams and write and record videos. And she was like, that's still like a ton of work. And I'm like, yeah, no, but it would be 40% less than what I'm doing right now. There's like a lot of crazy stuff that I'm doing. No, like the only person that fully understands and appreciates all the work I'm putting in is Elisa. She's literally the only person that sees it. So it's kind of wild, but I'm gonna be okay. I'm not like completely burnt out. I just recognize that unless I take some time to just rest and kind of let my mental get back, then the quality of work is going to suffer. There's like a diminishing return, Sometimes, and when I was younger, maybe I thought, oh, I can just work through this, or I can just like full steam ahead, etc., etc. But there does come a point where diminishing returns happen, and you gotta rest up, man. There's that story of the two people that are cutting the wood in the forest, and the one dude leaves every single day for a couple of hours, and yet he always cuts more wood than the other guy. And the other guy's like, yo, what's your secret? Like, where do you go? And he's like, oh, it's simple. I go home, sharpen my axe. So you do need to take time away to sort of sharpen the mind, sharpen the tools that you have. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and plus, like, it's just been crazy at home and everything. We're still getting settled with everything, but yeah. It's going to be fine. Cap and Tony? No, they just rip it apart. At least that's what Cap does. Yeah. But if all your work sucks, then no one will notice. That's true. That is 100% true. It has to be good. And I think content is actually getting harder and harder than ever, frankly. But if you figure out a way to have a sort of standard of quality, and then you also figure out a way to put like your own spin on it and have fun with it. I mean, I think the next era of content we're going into is going to heavily lean in on authenticity and like an authentic person, an authentic brand, authentic community, all these sort of things. So I feel like we're well positioned, but frankly, there is a lot of work to be done. A lot of tightening up of even these streams and shows, So yeah, it's good stuff. Also, just wanted to say before we get into too much of the news, we had our very first members stream of 2025 last night. It was fantastic. I appreciate all of you for being there. Shout out to Joshua Kemble for the banjo, man. We jammed out on some banjo last night. That was super fun. We talked about a new plan for the members streams going forward. So, yeah, we should be back at it. Member stream next week. We're going to do a watch party next week. And we have to figure out what movie or what show we want to watch next week. We're going to do it sort of director commentary style, where we'll all have to hit, play at the same time. And then I'm just going to sort of have commentary over the thing as we are watching it. So we have to figure out which one we want to watch. What movie do we want to watch? What do we want to check out next week? Joshua says, I do HVAC and worked till midnight on Monday, and my whole week's been off since, so I feel you, brother. Yeah, it can definitely, like, even just one day of a lack of sleep can really throw you off, for sure. Still trying to see that twerking in Banjo? I would love to. I don't know how it's possible, you know? I feel like that's how you throw your back out or something. That's pretty crazy. What's the deal with Doom's Barons in Secret Wars? Who do you think will be the Red Baron or play the role in Secret Wars 2027? I think it's going to be a lot of familiar characters. I think Maestro Hulk is going to be one of them. I actually think it's going to be... So I'm of two minds of this. One of me thinks there's not even going to be Barons. Maybe certain characters are put in charge of certain planets in the universe. And maybe that's what's going on. But I kind of think that Doom will have his own Avengers, and he'll have like his own Dark Avengers. And part of the reason I think that is because there's a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of people talking about how an Avengers versus X-Men conflict is being set up over the next couple of years with Secret Wars and the Multiverse Saga. And that will carry into Phase 7, you know, the X-Men Mutant Saga. And I'm kind of thinking like, well, if you have a bunch of Avengers that technically work for Doom, then the mutants and some of the other people might hold that against them, even moving past it. I don't know. We'll have to see. So maybe it's that some of the Barons will be the Dark Avengers. Maybe like King Thanos will be one of them. Maybe he won't have Barons. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that we don't know. And that is all the stuff that I'm really interested in right now. You know, like I think the leaks we're going to talk about today, or rather the, you know, reports from Daniel, they're interesting, especially within the context of the Secret Wars discussion. But, you know, Daniel also talked about Strange Academy yesterday. And I looked at how Reddit was responding to that. And I feel the same way that a lot of them do, where they're like, these leaks aren't even fun anymore. Like, the only leaks that they care about are the ones with regards to Doomsday and Secret Wars. That's where the big mystery is. Like, frankly, who cares about a Strange Academy show that will come out after Secret Wars? That, like, we don't have the context to even give a shit about that, right? So, yeah, I think for a lot of us, especially those among us that love like the rumors and the speculation that's connected to all these projects, Secret Wars and, you know, Doomsday and all that stuff, that's where the juice is at. And then sort of following that, given some of the stuff we'll see in those movies, I think the Mutant Saga and the Cosmic Side in Phase 7, 8, 9, that'll be interesting as well. Strange 3 coming out before or post Secret Wars. It looks to be coming out after Secret Wars. I'll explain when we get there, but yeah. Ray's Academy? You don't say that! Watch the last scene of Daredevil before the new season starts? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we could do some of that on Wednesday, but we're not going to be able to do a lot. So, like, meaning we could watch 2-3 episodes max. That's like, and that would be the whole evening, you know? Not that I'm against that, but it might be more useful to, like, watch a movie together, something that we can kind of really do some fun commentary for. You know, we watched the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie late last year. That was super fun. That was really cool. And I got a lot out of that, you know, like going back, thinking about how they were doing things then, the things I like about Affleck's Daredevil versus, you know, the new Daredevil, etc. Will Wanda be in Doc Strange to carry the box office? I don't know. I don't think so, actually, but I have some thoughts on what Doctor Strange 3 will be, and I think there's a really important reason why this movie might be one of the first movies after Secret Wars. So we'll get into that, but yeah. I mean, I love the Scarlet Witch, man. I would not mind. Put Wanda in everything. I stan. Dare I say, I simp for Wanda. Put her in everything, man. All right, guys, let's get into some of the news, man. And you know what I want to start with? Let's start with the Daredevil trailer. My girlfriend is a fan of Wanda since The Rivals came out. She's pretty cool in Marvel Rivals, I won't lie. I won't deny it. I won't deny it. Okay. So yesterday, the first official trailer for Daredevil came out, and I'm still reeling from it. I thought it was incredible. I'm really, really excited for the show. And part of why I'm excited for it is, like, I'm just a fan. It looks dope as hell. I'm really into it. You know, the violence, the characters that are coming back, the tonal match to what they did on Netflix. But I'm also excited for it as, like, a content creator, right? You know, making content around a show that seems to be something people are really into. It's going to stretch for like 9-10 weeks of content, and we're going to have conversations week to week, mystery, intrigue, a lot of questions. Like, dude, it's dope. You know, the Disney Plus shows have not been great overall. I think particularly the Star Wars ones have really actually hurt that brand, potentially even more than the sequel trilogy did. However, when they're operating the right way, they create an incredible fan experience that lasts weeks and weeks and months. I know a lot of people, you know, didn't love Ahsoka, but for those of us that did, the whole, like, when I was making content for Ahsoka, we had like a couple of incredible months, like record-breaking months, and a lot of people just had a lot of fun, you know, in the streams, reacting, you know, thinking about the leaks and spoilers, all that sort of stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And the more I looked at the reaction that people were having yesterday about Daredevil, I started to get even more excited. And I've never done this before. Okay, I have never done this before. This will be a first time. But I'm going to make some bold predictions way too early in the game based off of some anecdotal evidence. Okay? I predict that Daredevil Born Again will not only be the biggest Marvel show that they've ever had, and I'm talking from premiere to finale, but I predict that Daredevil Born Again will pull numbers that we have literally never seen on Disney Plus. I'm talking about the show topping the Nielsen charts consistently. And I'm talking about potential viewership that touches some crazy numbers. Like what we've seen with The Boys, what we've seen with The Last of Us, what we've seen with Fallout, what we've seen with House of the Dragon. Those kind of numbers. And there are a couple of different reasons why. I think, number one, Daredevil has a huge catalog on Netflix. And what that kind of translates to is a lot of people know about Daredevil. You know, the Spider-Verse movies, you know, the first Spider-Verse movie didn't even perform all that well in the box office. But the second Spider-Verse movie popped the fuck off. And part of the reason why, you know, people speculate, of course, but part of the reason that people think this happened is because Spider-Verse, the first one, had a long stay on Netflix. And it was like one of the top watched movies for years. Things were a little different back then, where Netflix was just the whole streaming genre, basically. There wasn't really competitors to Netflix. Pretty much everybody you knew had Netflix. It was an absolutely massive amount of people watching these different things. And so you look at some of the shows that popped off back in the day, man, it's crazy. And that Spider-Verse movie was a big part of that. I also would tell you that Clone Wars being on Netflix for as long as it was actually a huge boost and a boon to the Clone Wars numbers that Disney gets when they do the 7th season, and then some of the stuff that they experience after that. Like, you can't deny the effect that had, the Netflix effect, especially back then. Daredevil and all of the Defender shows were absolutely massive, and they've made a really, really big impact. Like, a lot of people that aren't even necessarily hardcore into comic book movie shows or whatever, they know about the Daredevil show. And so I think the show is primed to hit big numbers like that. Another reason that I think this is possible, and the reason that I'm predicting this, is because Daredevil has all the stuff that a lot of these really big shows have. And what I mean is, like, what is the X factor for some of these massive shows that absolutely pop off, right? Well, I think if you look at The Boys, you look at Fallout, you look at Last of Us, you look at House of the Dragon, there's a pretty clear pattern there. It's like super mature, almost irreverent content. There seems to be this big hunger out there from the audience for more mature, edgier content. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is just apparent. Now, they also all lean on big properties. So, like The Last of Us, of course, video game, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, Fallout, video game, big series, etc., right? But it does seem that that maturity and that darker stuff, there's a huge appetite for it out there. Daredevil has that, and it seemingly has that in spades. I mean, it looks, just from what we saw in the trailer, the first trailer, it looks to be as dark, if not darker, than everything we got on the Netflix show. Particularly when you look at some of the stuff that's going on with the Muse character. Yeah, man, it really does seem like it's going to get super bloody, super violent. I've seen a lot of people talking about what a bold choice it is to use the Charles Soule stuff, that comic book run, for the actual contents of a Disney Plus show. We kind of knew Marvel was going in this direction. You know, you look at what they did with Echo, what they did with Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, that's what's going on there. But the Daredevil show itself, I think, really, really, really strong. It's going to be super, super violent. You know, at least that's what I think. So I actually think we're going to see something pretty crazy with Daredevil, and it's going to break into numbers that we just have not seen before for a lot of the reasons I just mentioned. On top of that, the quality looks really good. Now, granted, it's just a trailer, but the buzz on the show is really good internally. And of course, Marvel Studios went through kind of an unprecedented retooling of this show, bringing in the Punisher showrunner, bringing in Benson and Aaron Moorhead, and really just going back to the roots of what was done on Netflix. So the quality's there. I think the maturity and the darkness is there. And again, it just seems like that's what people are craving right now. And I think it also has huge name recognition. You know, Marvel is still big. And I think the story of Marvel over the past couple of years has been like, they have a portion of their audience that's lying in wait, and their own audience is being more selective with the stuff they engage with. So that's why, like, in a year where you begin the year with a bomb in Quantumania and you end the year in the worst bomb in the history of Hollywood with the Marvels, in the middle of that, you still have almost $1 billion grossing movie, and Guardians 3 underperforms in its first weekend. This indicates that same lying in wait audience. And as the word of mouth was out there and it was positive, people went out to see Guardians 3, all the way taking it to like $850 million worldwide box office, which is crazy. So Marvel has this massive audience. I just think a lot of the content is hit or miss. And I think the audience is getting wised up to that. So you put all of those factors together, and I think that Daredevil Born Again is poised to pop the fuck off. But here's the thing. Here's the other thing. If this happens, like, if this actually gets bigger than The Boys, or like if we see a headline from Disney that says something like 30 million views on like the first week or whatever, like that, that would be absolutely shocking, right? Like that's fucking massive, right? Like that would be insane. But if I am correct, and if we hit those numbers, imagine what a signal boost that would be to Marvel Studios that this is the direction that things should go in. We're about to enter an era of, you know, we're doing the Secret Wars stuff, and that's going to be crazy, but we're going into the mutants. And as I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about Daredevil, right? I was like, okay, so if this thing pops off the way I think it could, Marvel's going to be like, oh shit, that's what they want. We're going to do this. That's going to lead to this Punisher show, you know, being very close to this kind of a theme. But imagine what kind of influence that level of success would have on the new mutant plans. So, you know, I sort of brought this up yesterday, right? Because, you know, we're thinking about the Nova show. We're thinking about the Champion show. We're thinking about the Punisher show. Those are like the next suite of shows. And we've heard longstanding rumors that they want to do stuff with mutants and X-Men as well. So as we get into this next, you know, several years or whatever, maybe we get a Weapon X show. Maybe we get X-Force, Exiles, all sorts of stuff, okay? The point is, if Daredevil pops off, and it's the biggest Disney Plus thing they've ever done, that can give us versions of all of these future shows, including the Mutant and X-Men shows, that would be darker, more mature, and given the same level of care that Daredevil Born Again received. So I know I'm a fanboy dreaming a little bit here. Like, I totally acknowledge that. But also, if this happens and it is that successful, it ushers in a whole new era for Marvel. It gives them the signal boost needed to make these decisions, to double down on this stuff. I want like a Phantom X show, or like there's a great X-Force book. I think it was called Sex, Blood, and Violence or something like that. It's like Domino, Wolverine, and it's like Marvel Max with, it's super like crazy, like violence, sex, all kinds of crazy stuff. I would like content like that for Marvel. I think, of course, Marvel can still exist in its, you know, Disney family-friendly Avengers type stuff, but it's obvious there's a big craving out there, a large, you know, unsatiated hunger for that mature comic book genre content. So, bro, this is like a W that could potentially just keep giving us W's. And so, again, I know it's a bold prediction, but I'm predicting this show will do world-breaking numbers, stuff that we've never seen on Disney Plus before. And because of that, it will usher in a new era of taking this stuff more seriously, of being more mature. And if that doesn't happen, I'll cry. But I think it will happen, so I'm excited for it. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think, guys? You think it's going to happen? Don't you think? I mean, let's be real. Let's start here. Do you agree that this show has the potential to be bigger than anything we've seen on Disney Plus? I think the biggest thing we've ever seen on Disney Plus would either be Loki season 1 or the Kenobi show. Like, nothing we've seen, so actually make the charts. I believe Loki season 1 charts consistently. And then I believe Kenobi, at least at the start, charted very well. Yeah. You're putting too much faith in this show. No, you don't say that, Matt. You don't say that. Rebel Moon, never heard of her. Bigger than Bluey. Yes. That's a good way to say it, Aaliyah. We need it to be bigger than Bluey. What about WandaVision? No, WandaVision really didn't pop off like that. I mean, it did well for where it was at. But yeah, it didn't really pop off the way you would think. Yes. The biggest thing for me is X-Men 97. Well, you know what's funny is, like, I thought about X-Men 97. In fact, I think I have it here in my notes. X-Men 97 was a huge W, but, like, X-Men 97 was not commercially successful. I mean, maybe you could say it was successful for a cartoon, but it never charted. You know what I mean? And I think it's literally one of the best things they've ever created. I think it deserves to have huge numbers. But, like, it probably did, like, Skeleton Crew numbers. You know, so terrible. So, like, it's funny because, you know, Daredevil, I think could do something crazy. WandaVision charted too. I don't know that it did. I mean, it absolutely could have charted. Things were very different back then. This was like the very beginning of streaming it, on Disney Plus in some ways. Mando season 1 comes out, and then it's WandaVision. WandaVision was very big for Marvel, but I think they've added like 40, 50 million new subscribers since the time of WandaVision, right? So the whole game's bigger. There are multiple companies that do analytics now. Back then, it might have just been like Samba. Like, I don't even know that Nielsen, because Nielsen was traditionally tracking cable television. Nielsen makes a pivot to streaming, but I don't even know that that happened during the time of WandaVision. Maybe it was like in process or whatever. But yeah. I think it'll do well, but not because of violence. It's popping because of the violence is wild. It's Daredevil. Come on, it's going to do well, but I don't think it's even touching Loki. No, I mean, dude, like, I disagree. Like I'm not even saying that I like the violence per se, although I think it certainly fits with Daredevil. That's never been like the huge draw to me. I do think it's cool. But brother, you can't deny it. Like, the violence and the mature content is absolutely a factor. Like, all of the top shows from last year, other than like Bluey, and dude, I'll be honest with you, even like the CSI shit, which those things pop, even some of the reality TV shit, I think it's like violence. I think it's violence. I think it's mature content, like there's a huge appetite for that out there. It is what it is. Grace is claiming the Daredevil trailer underperformed, but I checked the YouTube. It's trending #1. She gets outrage clicky sometimes. Sigh. I don't know. I mean, look, I haven't seen her take on it. I think it's possible. So here's what I'll say is I was a little disappointed in the YouTube numbers for the Daredevil trailer. Maybe that's what she's speaking to. She could be speaking to, because like, for instance, like just as an example, within the first 4 hours of the Superman trailer, I think my reaction had like 20,000 views, and the stream like popped off, right? And you look at the Daredevil trailer, I think we did like half that, like about half that in the same time. So maybe that's what she's saying is like it underperforming. But I really thought about this yesterday, and they're just not comparable. And also, it's fair to say that I think there's a fatigue of like breakdowns and content based on trailers for Marvel. But the trailer itself performed incredibly. Like, it not only did it get viewed a lot, but people are very positive on it. So I think in some ways, like, it's a mistake to say, oh, just because this thing is not popping off for me on YouTube, it's underperforming. Like, it certainly means something, but here's a couple of reasons as to why this could be happening. Number one, a lot of the people that are the most hardcore Marvel people, they've kind of already seen this trailer. It's leaked. It's been leaked for like 6 months. Okay. Number two, a lot of the hardcore Marvel people, they already know all the stuff that's going to be in the thing. Like, they've read the leaks or they studied the leaks, etc. Right? So those could be possible explanations. Also, there could just generally be a fatigue of looking really closely and deeply at Marvel content. So, for instance, the trailer might be hitting people and they're literally just like, that looks good, I'll check it out. I'm not going to go seek out content about it because it's not that deep for me anymore. But I'm going to watch the show. So, like, I've thought about this too, and I just think there's something happening with YouTube and content that is not directly related to how this material is reaching the mass audience. It certainly indicates something, but I don't know that it's a one-to-one anymore, right? So yeah, but again, I don't even know what her take was or why she feels that way. Vandolph the Black says, I think Marvel needs to acknowledge the Shogun effect. Brother, that's another great example. Like, look, I'm not trying to, like, dog on Justin, but I think he's wrong. Like, there does appear to be this appetite for more mature content. I mean, Shogun is fucking brutal, dude. And that's a part of the flavor for sure. And it has mass appeal. It wasn't a comic book franchise, but a gritty drama with brutal action in the Disney Hulu package. It made an impact on comic book nerds. Yeah, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. James says, 39 months as a nerd Avenger, starting my master's degree next week in children's therapy. Can't wait. UFC 311 predictions. KK getting honored? LOL, KK. Yeah, let's pull that up. Let's pull up the KK thing. Because I can't fucking believe it. And then we'll talk about the UFC, and then we'll get into the news about the Marvel movies, because it's pretty cool. Also, I mean, have you guys seen the crash out that Elon Musk is having? Like, this shit is wild, bro. Like, imagine having all the money in the world and still just beefing with gamers on, like, social media. What a punk-ass biatch. Okay, so check this out. I saw this because Star Wars Meg shared it with an ellipses. That's 3 periods meant to indicate a pause or a space. The Hollywood Reporter. Kathleen Kennedy to be honored with ACS's Board of Governors Award. The Oscar-nominated producer and current president of Lucasfilm will be honored for her extraordinary career. Which has captivated audiences and made her a true trailblazer in the film industry. I mean, I can agree with that. Okay, so she's going to be honored at the American Society of Cinematographers Board of Governors Award, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Man. What do you guys think? I mean, we've reached the point where I kind of can't believe it. I mean, it seems like the plan is to try to get her to walk away with some level of dignity. You know? I don't know, man. I mean, I've said my piece. I think her legacy will be tied to destroying Star Wars. And I guess if that gets you governor awards and shit, like, you know, cool. California seems like a wild place, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say. She's absolutely terrible. And I think the continued gaslighting of trying to pretend that she is not at least majorly responsible for the destruction of this brand, I think at this point it's crazy. And I mean, we're at the point where, like, even a lot of the people that had been positive and tried to help and support and stand up for Kathy over the last couple of years have given that up. You've got people that they really do mean well. They don't want to be toxic. They might hate the fact that even I agree with them on these points. They might not like it. Like, they might feel uncomfortable by it. But even they are like, brother, this is she has to go. Like, this is not good. This has been terrible. The amount of movies that have gone into production and then been deleted. You know, she's putting out shows right now. Like, you look at Acolyte's numbers and then you look at Skeleton Crew's numbers. I mean, what? Star Wars Celebration next year, right? Like, or this year, rather. We got Star Wars Celebration this year. And my question is, like, celebrate what? Like, what do you mean? Star Wars Celebration. What's there to celebrate? Well, there's only one potential thing to celebrate, and that's Ding Dong. The witch has finally retired. You know, and like, again, we have gotten to a place where that's, I don't even feel bad saying that shit. Like, that's not even toxic. Like, that's what it is. God damn. So, I don't know. This just kind of crazy, right? Like, this lady is literally getting awards, and she ruined, I mean, one of the best brands in the world. Ruined it. So, I don't know. I mean, my thing is, if they wanted to have Kathy, like, save some face, she should have retired a couple of years ago. She should have hung her hat on Mandalorian and Grogu before she fucked that up. And she should have hung her hat on, like, the $5 billion that were made during the sequel trilogy. And then she should have just walked away. And, like, maybe there was nobody else to do the job. But if the priority was to try to salvage her legacy, that was her only way out. You know, we've heard reports, I think it was even Jeff Snyder that reported she's looking for a W. So imagine you're Kathleen Kennedy, right? And you're releasing all this content in 2024. You know, you release the Accolade and you're thinking to yourself, man, if this is a W, I'm out. And then it's so bad that it gets canceled. And then you release Skeleton Crew and you're like, if this is a W, I'm out. And it literally has worse numbers than Accolade. Kathy, the W's not coming. You leaving is the W. You leaving is the W. So anyway, yeah, that's what I gotta say. That's what I gotta say about that. Now, as far as the UFC, man, I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. Maybe I will later. But I want Islam to lose. I like the Armenian Batman. He's cool. What is it? Yeah, man. Arman. Armenian Batman. Let's get it. I'll go with Marab. I'll go with Yuri. I'll go with Benil. I'll go with Kevin Holland. Holy shit, what a card. What a card. That's going to be good. That's going to be real good. So, yeah, those are my predictions of the main card. Okay. Let's shift. Let's talk about some Marvel news, okay? So, there's been a lot of mystery over the past, 5-6 months. Ever since the July announcement of Doomsday and Secret Wars, we've been like, oh, shit, okay, so that's the plan. Well, what about this movie? What about this movie? Rumors. Of course, the plan was to do the Kang Dynasty. Before that all changed, and, you know, we were hearing rumors of things like Shang-Chi 2, which was going to directly set up Doomsday. We had rumors of Doctor Strange 3 setting up Kang Dynasty, right? And then when it shifted into Doomsday, we were like, okay, so maybe Shang-Chi 2 will be like an Avengers-esque movie that could potentially set up Doomsday. Maybe Doctor Strange 3 will set up Doomsday. And I think particularly with Doctor Strange 3, the reason many of us thought that would be a good fit is because Stephen Strange and Doctor Doom, they build Battleworld together. They're two of the only people in the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars comic that know of the old universe. Everybody else just believes Doom is God. Doom's always been God. Battleworld is all there is. It's all there ever has been. So a lot of speculation that Doctor Strange 3 in particular could fit really nicely into this slate as a precursor to either Doomsday or to Secret Wars. So let's look at this article here from Charles Murphy, and he's discussing a new report from Daniel RPK. Okay, so I want to go over this with you guys, and then I have some thoughts because I think this all has to do with the reboot. Okay, so here we go. Marvel Studios reportedly makes a decision on Doctor Strange 3. Published yesterday. Doctor Strange's place in the Multiverse Saga is clear. or at least it was. 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness surprised fans by revealing that the multiverse faces no greater threat than Stephen Strange. The film's mid-credit scene featuring Charlize Theron as the powerful extra-dimensional sorceress Kalia saw Strange embark on what many believed to be the first step in discovering that time was running out for the universe. And I think this is probably an article where he was speculating that that would be what the movie is about. Of course, much has changed since then, which means whatever adventures the Multiverse of Madness writer Michael Waldron had in mind for Strange and Clea may no longer be on the docket for the paranormal pair. And there's a threat, and it's out there. And now it's out there. There's a multiversal threat. In the same way, when the MCU first went cosmic many years ago, there was that teed up the threat of Thanos. Now it's probably a matter of you're setting up some multiversal threats on the board, whether it's Kang, Incursions, whatever. It'll be interesting to see how all of those things come together. That's a quote from Michael Waldron. Though star Benedict Cumberbatch has confirmed that he'll be returning to work for the MCU for a project or two in 2025, the actor is confirmed to be a part of the cast for Avengers Doomsday. There's been no news on the studio's plan for the third installment in the Doctor Strange franchise. However, a new report has shed some light into the dark dimension. According to Marvel Studios insider Daniel Richtman, production on Doctor Strange 3 is expected to get underway in 2026. Should that come to fruition, it's likely that the film would take one of the studio's two currently unfilled 2027 theatrical slots. Really, what happened was we ended up stumbling upon an idea that activated all of us. You couldn't see it coming until it came. And once it came, it was like, well, that's a story that we need to tell. Anthony Russo on Secret Wars. While many believe Doctor Strange will provide a good chunk of the exposition necessary to get fans ready for the final act of the Multiversal Saga, that is exactly what we were just talking about. This movie was said to be a thing perfect for a prelude to Secret Wars or Doomsday. Alex Perez has hinted that a lot of that story is really important for the Multiversal Saga. But as Charles says here, it's possible that writer Stephen McFeely has incorporated that into Strange's arc in Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. If that's the case, Doctor Strange 3 will likely be one of the first films in the studio's next saga, which is expected to heavily focus on the mutants. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to touch on here, right? So you've got the report that Doctor Strange 3 will go into production in 2026. This likely means it will not be ready for 2027. We don't know for sure, but it's seeming that way. Okay, it's seeming that way. Now, what I think this indicates is that this story between Strange and Doom will be actually handled in the Doomsday movie and then wrapped up potentially in the Secret Wars film. All right? So if that is the case, then it means Stephen Strange and Benedict, they're going to do some heavy lifting in the next couple of years. I think this tracks. I mean, these movies are going to be massive. Doomsday is basically just the prelude to Secret Wars. And in fact, when the Russos were on stage at San Diego Comic-Con, they said something to the effect of, we realized we needed to do another movie, another setup film that would make Secret Wars make sense. That's what Doomsday is. So it's very much the Infinity War to Endgame. But I think they have to do a lot more heavy lifting of story because Doctor Doom has not been around. Doctor Doom is not established. He may be established in the Fantastic Four movie in some really interesting ways, but he hasn't been around. We don't have any indication that he's the big bad, right? So Doomsday in particular has to do a lot of heavy lifting with story. And I think between Strange and Doom is a brilliant way to get some of that stuff done. Okay. Now let's talk about Shang-Chi 2 for just a second here. It does appear that Shang-Chi 2, which was originally, I really feel originally this was also a prelude to Kang Dynasty. I think that Destin Daniel Cretton was going to do something that set up a time travel thing, different versions of Kang that directly led into Secret or Doomsday, or rather, fucking Kang Dynasty. These goddamn Avenger movies. We're playing musical goddamn chairs with these titles. It's all confusing. But the point is, I think there were rumors to indicate that Shang-Chi 2 was going to potentially set up Kang Dynasty, and there was going to be a through line there. That's obviously all gone away. We just got a report from Daniel yesterday that all of Michael Waldron's work on Secret Wars has been completely scrapped. Completely scrapped. He'll still probably get story credit because he did all that work or whatever. But the Russos and McFeely are completely rewriting that film. So any bits that were built off of the old plan are gone. So, Shang-Chi 2. I think it's going to be remade. And I think it will, like, one of the things I'm really interested in is, like, if we discover what the 10 rings actually are via the next two Avengers movies, which I believe they're just ancient celestial technology, perhaps connected to the World Forge that created this version of the 616 after the original multiversal war, then I'm interested, like, will Shang-Chi not have access to the 10 rings after Secret Wars? Will he have access to the 10 rings, but it's kind of like a problem? There's a lot of questions there. I think if this is indeed true, it likely just means Marvel's like, okay, moving in to the Mutant Saga, we think that is a good place for the Shang-Chi sequel. Okay? And maybe it is the connection to the celestial technology that becomes the plot of Shang-Chi, which kind of ties him into the cosmic stuff. We've heard a lot of rumors of, like, Judgment Day, maybe Annihilus, some crazy cosmic stuff happening, right? So that's one thing. But for me, the really interesting part is Doc Strange potentially in 2027 in the MCU reboot. Now, for the uninitiated and for people that don't know, there is a long-standing rumor, which at this point appears to be totally real. This rumor is that after Secret Wars, you're going to get a soft reboot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All kinds of rumors about what this could be. You could get a lot of recasting, like maybe they recast Tony Stark, maybe they recast Steve Rogers, maybe they recast T'Challa, right? There could be a lot of new faces in this new version of the MCU. Also, rumors that you're going to get new X-Men cast, right? Sadie Sink, and I think Jeff Snyder is going to tease and maybe even potentially tonight tell us another one of the new X-Men that's rumored, right? But in the context of this soft reboot, a Doctor Strange movie is the perfect way to ease this transition. Because I would imagine if anybody remembers the Secret War, if anybody remembers the old version of the MCU, it would be a character like Stephen Strange. And so Stephen Strange and his perspective and the knowledge of Secret Wars could be a brilliant way for us, the audience, to be introduced to what this new version of Marvel looks like. Stephen could even say things like, oh, you look different, or oh, you're the same, or I forget, did this actually happen? Do you remember this particular thing happening to said character? So I think it's actually a really smart way to utilize this character and to help the transition. And if this is really happening, it just means that Benedict is totally all in on this. And man, this would be crazy because he's a huge part of the Avengers films. And then he goes on to get another movie, you know, in this new phase with like mutants and X-Men and all that kind of crazy stuff. So I actually think it's a pretty smart idea. Like, my initial reaction to this story was, man, I'm bummed because Doctor Strange is such a great character to set up a lot of stuff for Doomsday. And that context and doing Time Runs Out, all that sort of stuff. The rumors of the Black Priest, all that stuff, man. Incredible. But if we're really rolling in to a new rebooted MCU, and there are perhaps lingering threats or effects from Secret Wars that are still plaguing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then Doctor Strange is the perfect character to explain that to us, the audience, and take us through this new version. So that's actually that's my prediction. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. That's probably why they pushed the movie. And I mean, think about it like this. If this actually goes down, it would mean in 2027, we would have a Secret Wars movie. We would have Doctor Strange 3, the new MCU or whatever they're going to call it, right? And then we have the first X-Men or Mutants project. All in 2027. And one of the things that Kevin said recently, and I'm going to sneeze, so hang on. Ah! One of the things that Kevin said recently, which is really important that you should remember, is he said when we were doing Infinity War and Endgame, we were just telling a story that was an end, and we weren't exactly sure what the next big story was going to be. This time around, we know exactly what the next story is, and we have ways to connect what we're doing in Secret Wars and Doomsday and the end of the Multiverse Saga directly into that story. He spoke at this, kind of connecting it to the X-Men, but I think overall it means they've got a big plan, and they're not going to do what they did last time. They're not going to do Endgame and then literally back the fuck off, give us like some middling mid shit, introduce new characters, feels directionless, like what are we doing here? No, they're going to hit the ground running, soft reboot, mutants, cosmic stuff, boom, 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 boom. And I think that's great. So the news about Doctor Strange and Shang-Chi, little disappointing, but I see an avenue here for this to actually make a lot of sense and be really good for us, the fans. So would love to know. What do you think about that shit, man? What you think about that, huh? What you think about that, chat? Hey, chat! Hey, yo, chat! What do you think? You see where my head's at? You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Rossi says, I heard a rumor Justin was on the panel to vote for her for the award and voted yes. I heard it because I made it up 100%. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That tracks. That seems like something Justin would do. Joshua says, I tried to tell everyone to watch Skeleton Crew so KK could get her W and leave, but then they didn't. I didn't even watch it. Nice. Nice. Yeah, well, you messed that up for us, Josh. Just felt like riding. Says, I have been patiently waiting for a solid Doctor Strange news because, of course, he's the obvious tie to Secret Wars, and I completely agree in Daredevil revival. Oh, hell yeah. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the love. What do you guys think, man? Scarlet Witch movie could fit into this, too. That's true, actually. That is 100% true. She's also a good character to do similar things with. No one watched Skeleton Kids. Yeah, very few people did. Very few people did. Shelf Presence with a 5 spot says, if Daredevil does well, Shang-Chi should move to Disney Plus under the Marvel Knights banner, Marvel Max style stories using street level characters. Iron Fist, Shang-Chi. Yeah, that would be cool. That would absolutely be cool. I still think you could do a great Shang-Chi movie, but you should have other Avengers in there. It can't be an origin story. It has to be dope as hell. You know what I mean? If you think, like, I'm just saying, Marvel needs to juice that movie up. If they want people to be excited about Shang-Chi 2, it needs to be lit, dude. It needs to be lit. Where does Blade get into all of this? That's a good question. I mean, I think Blade, there were rumors that Blade was actually going to be multiversal and that it was going to connect into the Multiverse Saga. Not really sure, but Blade could come out then. It could also come out in 2028. Not really sure. Maybe the Doc Strange 3 movie is Midnight Suns. Wouldn't that be crazy? Doctor Strange 3, Midnight Suns. I don't know. We'll see. So Doc Strange 3 is going to be like an epilogue for the Multiverse Saga. I think in part, yeah, it could serve that function. Yeah. Thus far, we still don't have all Nielsen info for Skeleton Kids. I mean, that's true. It could potentially chart at the end, but it's not looking good. I mean, I was shocked at how low those numbers were. Like, holy, bruh. Holy. We still got to learn what the rings were calling to. Yeah, and I think you'll learn that in Doomsday. I predict they will be calling to either Galactus or the Celestials or Doctor Doom. So, yeah. Kind of crazy. I want to take you for a ride. Blade needs to start being the Nick Fury of this phase and just start showing up. I agree. I think that would be great. I think that would be great. So, yeah, I mean, kind of a smaller update with regards to Doctor Strange 3, but I think one that's pretty impactful. And it begins to make the picture of these next few years come into focus. And again, it's like initially I was like, I don't know, I'm disappointed. Like, come on, man. But I think it also kind of makes sense when you consider the soft reboot. He's literally the perfect character for that. You know, like the perfect character for that. Yeah. Okay. I want to watch. We're going to finish the stream off by watching this video by Nando V Movies about Marvel Studios in 2025 and it being make or break for them. However, before we get into that, I wanted to bring up a couple of different things. So Chris Listenfeld and his family was so nice to send me a Christmas care package. And the first thing, which I kind of can't believe we keep getting these, but it's more ranch socks. What the hell is even that? How do you guys keep finding these? It's goddamn ridiculous. But at this point, I have so many ranch socks that I'm actually going to have to start wearing them. Unbelievable. And then the other thing that Chris sent, he also sent me a $25 gift certificate for Buffalo Wild Wings, so I'm going to get some wings soon too. But look at this incredible ornament of Yoda lifting the X-Wing on Dagobah. And it's just so beautiful. It's so nice. Like, these days when I get Star Wars stuff, I usually cringe inside, and I'm like, yeah, I used to love that shit before KK. Before the dark times. And then my family's like, who's KK and are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But this is so cool that I will actually not smash it into a million pieces. I don't know that I'll put it on the Christmas tree, but I won't smash it. So thank you very much for that. Chris, W's in the chat for Chris. And then Aaliyah sent me something. And it's just like, it's just crazy. We have the best community there is. Check this out. Scarlet Spider Kane. The Funko Pop, man. She got me a Kane Funko Pop. Now, I actually might... Is there multiple Kanes? Because I might actually have this somewhere else. But am I going to be mad that I have 2 Kane Funko Pops? No, I'm not. I'm going to be very happy. And if I had 3, I'd be even more happy. So thank you so much, Aaliyah. Look at that. Look at those spikes he's got coming out of his hand. Man, y'all don't even know. This dude is the hardest, the most badass version of Spider-Man you've ever heard of. Woo! W. W. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it, man. We always get cool stuff in the P.O. box. You guys are so nice. Thank you so much, except for Cool Bear. Those are for his pleasure? What the hell? The fuck? The fuck does that mean, bro? Okay, let's finish off the stream watching this video by Nando V Movies.
Difficult year for Marvel. Sure, Guardians 3 was a
hang
huge
on, we
hit.
gotta-
2023 was a difficult year for Marvel.
Yeah, it
sure,
was.
Guardians 3 was a huge hit critically and financially,
Yeah.
and Loki Season 2 was strong. But
Yeah.
beyond that, I got the Marvels, which wasn't terrible, but was Marvel's first genuine bomb. Then Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania was a big, mockable mess, but hey, at least it introduced a big, new, memorable villain. Never mind. And then there was what I genuinely believe is the overall worst thing the MCU has ever produced.
Yes.
Secret Invasion. Just an
Yeah, you know, that I think that's true. I mean, what do you guys think? We've talked about this before, but I genuinely think Secret Invasion is the worst thing Marvel's ever done. It's the worst thing they've ever done. Holy. Like, the reboot is worth it just to potentially get rid of this.
absolute disaster filled with baffling deaths, pointless reveals, and at the heart of it, just all kinds of awful messaging. So Marvel took 2024 slow. It turned out to be one of their best years since Endgame, with Echo, X-Men 97, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Agatha all along. That was the easy part.
That's fair, actually. I mean, you know, Echo surprised us. I think the finale of it's terrible. X-Men 97 was super big, massive W. Deadpool, Wolverine, huge W. And then even Agatha was one of those shows where we're like, damn, dude, that's way better than we thought.
Marvel is now staring down the barrel of 2025, which promises to be its biggest year in ever, really. 3 movies, 4 shows, a bunch of other things. And as the internet's favorite Marvel show, I want to take a video just to talk through it, set some expectations, for fun. But before we get to 2025, 2024 has one more thing that's worth talking about.
Fucking
a bunch
boo!
of you were saying, wait, they made a What If Season 2? They certainly did. It released around Christmas of 2023, and it was surprisingly good. As someone who is not a humongous fan of Season 1, I think...
No, it wasn't. It was terrible. It was fucking terrible, and I honestly feel like turning this video off just because he said that. But different strokes, different folks. You can be wrong. What If Season 2 was terrible?
Season 2 is a huge improvement. And no, it is not only because Justin Hammer showed up to do a Die Hard homage and it was great, although I love that. No, it was just, I feel, a stronger interrogation of the premise of What If.
No.
Episodes with actual pitches.
No.
Like, what if Thor Ragnarok happened,
No.
but with Iron Man instead of Thor, which was originally planned to be a Season 1 episode? Or what if Nebula was a Nova Corpsman? Or what if Hela found the 10 rings? What if the Avengers assembled in the 80s? They even used Captain Carter to do a What If Steve Was the Winter Soldier episode that managed to work the Black Widow mythology into his backstory. And they introduced Gowrie, the original Mohawk character with the power of an Infinity Stone. Sure, the ending of the season goes a little off the rails, but at least I think it does so in a fun way. And the stories drew from genres like neo-noir and 80s action comedy, and were inspired by connections between characters like alcoholism, or warriors from a hidden world looking for family, or supporting characters who never got a shot at the prime time. So Season 2 was fun. Season 3 looks pretty promising as well. Between this and something else which we'll get to, it seems like the animated material is going to be drawing largely on the characters from phases 4 and 5, which is nice because most of them haven't gotten more than one big appearance. I think a lot of what made phases 1, 2, and 3 special was the small connections. Falcon, for example, shows up in how many projects in his first few years? He debuts in Cap 2, he's a cameo in Age of Ultron, he has a bigger cameo in Ant-Man, and then he's a main player in Cap 3. Compare that to Kamala Khan, a thoroughly popular character, but one who, since her debut in 2022, has only made it into her own show and the Marvels.
That's actually fair. We've talked about this before. Probably just due to changes, scope, things being pushed back. But yeah, that's obviously hurting a lot of these characters.
Phase 2, she'd have been in 2 other shows by now and an Avengers movie. And yes, corrections, Jackals. I know she was also in the cruise ship movie thing, but I'm not counting it because I hate cruise ships. We've already seen bits of one episode with Red Guardian going on some sort of road trip with the Winter Soldier. It also looks like we're getting a mech episode and more Shang-Chi and apparently more Agatha. If I could make one plea to Marvel, don't do the daily releases. Do 2 episodes a week. 1 a day is impossible for me and my fellow YouTubers to cover, and it makes the whole thing difficult for people to digest, and once a show hits the backlog, it tends to stay there. There's still time to fix this, Marvel, but okay, so that brings us to 2025, which
finally, Jesus Christ.
A very different cartoon. Now, most of what I've seen for this one comes secondhand, courtesy of footage of D23. But
Fair.
the new sizzle reel showed a few seconds, and I'm kind of optimistic. Do
What?
I find the new art style a little much? Yeah, but you know what? They're clearly going for something, and I respect that. And I enjoy the comic panels. I just think the colors might lose me. I like the inclusion of comic characters, like the Runaways and Midnight Suns' Nico
That's
Minoru.
true. That's
and
fair.
I adore the Coleman Domingo Norman Osborn casting. I wouldn't mind seeing that crossover into the MCU. I think the new costume is fun. It seems like there will be quite a few costumes in the show. I also think
That's
that guy
true,
he hit
and
in the
that's
head
fun.
with a brick better be a super soldier, because that's the kind of hit that can kill you, especially if it's so strong that it breaks the brick. Looks like Spider-Man's
Yeah.
gonna need a really good lawyer again, which we'll get to. But first... Now listen, I'm quite worried about this one. For those of you out of the loop, Captain America Brave New World, or New World Order, as it was originally called, has apparently been reshot a lot. Now, I will be the first to say, reshoots and even day of rewrites are not always a bad thing. Many of everyone's favorite Marvel things involve reshot plot points that are so consequential, you would have to assume they've been there the whole time. But when done well, reshoots and rewrites can make a movie better. But also sometimes a movie is bad, it scores poorly in test screenings, and it is reshot a lot, leading to a movie that is also bad, but maybe different.
Which is funny, because like that's what I think the Marvels was. The Marvels is like fine, but there's nothing great about it. It's not exceptional in any way. It's just, it falls into a lot of the flatness traps that I think a lot of the other Marvel stuff happens. But he said it wasn't bad, which is kind of weird.
Venom Web got reshot a lot, and I don't
That's
think
true.
they fixed it. Sometimes reshoots are not enough. And I am worried about Brave New World. On vibes, I think the trailer's strong. In fact, many people who have seen this trailer that was released at D23 in Brazil agreed that the movie looks cool. I think this comes down to some very effective editing and slick-looking action scenes. I am very excited for the visuals of Sam buzzing around aircraft carriers on the big screen. I think that looked great in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's some of the best stuff. This first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier was decent, and this action sequence is a big part of why. Like, it's legit.
Sort of seems like Brave New World is going for the style of Winter Soldier without the human connection that made that story work.
Right.
Without Bucky, Cap v Hydra can be entertaining, but the personal stakes making everything so much more complicated are why people look back on that movie so fondly.
Yep.
This is not a preemptive review of Brave New World. I just want to throw it out there that 2025 might start the same way as 2023, with a big, expensive movie that's okay. And
I think like it's funny because the discourse around this movie, I mean, we just did a video about this too. We clipped it out and everything. And I think ultimately, like, it's one of these situations where we all know what it is. You know, Marvel's trying to get out of this thing clean. I don't even think they care about profit. I think they care literally more about not losing their audience. And also they want to at least signal that they tried with Anthony Mackie. You know, I think they're marketing the shit out of this somewhat out of guilt because they know the buzz is bad. They know the fans aren't super excited, and they want to be seen as standing behind Black Captain America. So I think at this point, we all kind of know what it is. We're going through the motions. The best case scenario for this movie is for us all to be like, you know what? That's actually surprisingly fun. That's a movie I would see again. That's maybe in the top half of MCU movies overall. Like, that's actually not bad. You know?
Just know that if that happens, which I'm not guaranteeing it will, but if it does, there will be endless film bloggers using this moment to proclaim that Marvel is cooked. It's over. And I think, A, that is a wild take in the wake of Deadpool and Wolverine and Agatha all along. But B, it's February, and I've got a feeling the real winners are coming later. So judge.
Yeah, you know, I also think this is programming on Marvel's part. Now, Marvel has like 9 different projects releasing in 2025. I think that's a mistake. But they at least to be seemingly more intelligently programming. This is actually something that Matt Pat talked about. There was a big video. We watched it last year before he retired. He did a big video about fixing the MCU and how doing YouTube has actually taught him some stuff that Marvel could learn. And one of the things he talked about was programming, where it's like, okay, so maybe you know certain videos aren't necessarily going to pop off, but you know certain videos will. You need to space your videos that maybe won't perform as well in between videos that you know have a great chance to pop off. And the reason you do that is because it's programming. You want to keep the views steady. You want to keep the audience engaged. If you deliver too many bombs in a row, you literally lose audience. because it's like people are like, okay, well, there's no high points here. I'm just kind of checked out. So even though Captain America, I think right now we're looking at like the best case scenario is surprisingly decent and does like 700, 800 million. That's the best case scenario. I think they've hedged their bets because Daredevil comes out literally right after it, right? So even if this movie's a stinker, you've got 9 weeks of Daredevil right after this.
Slowly. All right, back to The Very Good Lawyer.
See?
All right, let's talk about everyone's second favorite, Matt. My actual first name is Matt. Nando is a nickname. It's a long story. Anyway, Daredevil Born Again is many people's most anticipated Marvel thing of 2025. And for that same reason, it is the one that most scares us.
Also, speaking of Kamala, that's Kamala's dad he just talked to. So from what we understand, Kamala's not in this show, but her dad is? What?
Season 3 of Netflix's Daredevil is phenomenal. As close to a perfect season of television as Marvel anything has produced. And many fans, myself included, were happy to leave the series behind. Sure, Matt was coming to the MCU, but he could do what he's been doing so far, popping up in She-Hulk and...
No, he can't. No, he can't, man. No. Like, what are you talking about, brother? The shit he's been doing so far is not working. It's turning people against the character, the brand. It's damaging Marvel. What are you talking about? Now, the fucking shit in Spider-Man, decent. The She-Hulk stuff, which I was actually initially okay with, and I'm probably not down on it as much as other people, but let's be real. That shit has been used to publicly shame Marvel and beat them over the head with his walk of shame and ridiculous shit that happens in the She-Hulk show.
Spider-Man with maybe a bigger role in Spider-Man 4 or a Defenders show, which would be a good idea since they never made one of those. It's a common misconception, but Iron Fist and Netflix's Defenders and, let's say, Jessica Jones Season 2 are all some sort of Mandela effect situation where we think they happened and even vaguely remember plot details, and it's even playing on screen right now, but it actually never happened. But it's no surprise that Disney thought it would be a great storytelling and also money-telling opportunity to bring back The Man Without Fear for a 4th season. But apparently, that was as far as the thinking went. Because according to reports, the original Daredevil Born Again, much of which was fully shot, stunk. Matt barely wore the costume. Many of the supporting characters were not involved.
4 or 5 episodes without the costume. Which, by the way, I saw some commentary yesterday online, people saying that even in the new trailer, they're a little bit upset that Matt isn't Daredevil right away and that he has to become Daredevil again. But I promise you, it is so much better now. In the original version, you were going to have to watch 5 to 6 episodes before, maybe 4 to 5 episodes before you put the costume back on. Now, maybe one episode. And I think you'll probably get flashbacks. So, yeah, way better this time around.
And the story just didn't have the juice to justify calling Matt out of retirement for one more big score. But then something amazing happened. Marvel learned something. Like the TV shows have showrunners who oversee production, and TV shows aren't just big 4-hour-long movies chopped into 6 pieces. So they took Daredevil Born Again back to formula. And it certainly seems like they've got something different on their hands. Pretty much every significant friend of Daredevil's is back. And some fun frenemies. And even an arch nemesis or two. It seems like the story is going to feature the trial of a vigilante, something that shockingly never happened in the first 3 seasons. Sure, Punisher took the stands, but he immediately went to prison, so he didn't get to do any of the fun court stuff. Then we're seeing an adaptation of Muse, one of the newer Daredevil villains who has a recognizable look and gimmick, but a very vague backstory in the comics, which gives the team the opportunity to take some fun liberties. So fingers crossed. Everybody's where they need to be. I just pray that Marvel is able to get this right. Speaking of things Marvel's taken a couple of swings at, let's talk about... I've got one word for you. Beef. One of 2023's most interesting and awarded new Netflix series was a comedy drama called Beef. If you never saw it, Beef is about 2 people who have a somewhat dramatic road rage incident that becomes the catalyst for their complete and total unraveling. Focuses on how a lack of or perceived lack of control is able to eat away at all of us and our relationships. So I was thrilled when I heard that Lee Sung-jin, the writer and director behind Beef, was taking another shot at the script for Thunderbolts.
Yeah, this will prove to be one of the best moves that Feige has made in a long time, I think. The look of the newest trailer is incredible, and Thunderbolts went from a movie that I could have like take it or leave it to a movie that I'm genuinely very excited for reasons outside of like canon, which is so interesting. I don't know how they pulled it off, but I'm like genuinely excited just to hang out with these characters for a couple hours and see some crazy Sentry shit. And it doesn't even necessarily have to connect to other stuff, which is so weird because that's not really my thing. I love the connective tissue. Kaylin says Luke Cage Easter egg in Daredevil trailer. Yeah, I saw that. So that's the club in Harlem, right? Are people saying that that implies that Luke Cage in the MCU is running the club? Because it was Cottonmouth's club at one time, was it not?
Because originally, I was skeptical. This Thunderbolts squad that in the comics is made up of colorful villains with wildly different superpowers is instead just going to be super soldiers and Black Widows.
True.
It's repetitive. It's dull.
That's fair.
It's downright boring. Not you, Ghost. You're great. But no Red Hulk, no Zemo, just the sidekicks of Black Widow and Falcon.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
Ghost, who again...
Totally fair point, man. This is actually fair. The Thunderbolts in comics are super colorful, super interesting. And in fact, that team changes a lot. And it's always an interesting, unique pairing of characters.
And is doing great. I wonder, why this team? What makes them so special? And the writers not only seem to understand that, they made it the main character's defining flaw. They're spinning their wheels.
Yep.
In world of multiverses and secret dragons and giant Egyptian god avatars, what are they worth? What purpose do they serve?
Totally.
Unlike the protagonists of Beef,
he's on point with this
believe they have no control over their lives. They're being led into these Black Ops missions that don't leave them so full or so filled. That trailer opening with Yelena's monologue.
There is something wrong with me, an emptiness. I'm just drifting and I don't have purpose. I thought throwing myself into work was the answer.
It is the most relatable a superhero movie has sounded in a decade.
I
Couple
agree.
that with an absolutely stacked roster of fan-favorite MCU characters like Florence Pugh's Yelena, Sebastian Stan's Bucky, David Harbour's Alexei, Wyatt Russell's Walker, and of course Hannah John Kamen's Ghost, who is for a third time doing great. Taskmaster is also there. Then throw in Julie Louis.
Yo, Taskmaster's also there. Fair.
Dreyfus as a slightly less evil Selena Meyer, and whatever they're doing with the Sentry. I think this one could really deliver. So that's the end of Phase 5. And it seems like Marvel wants Fantastic Four First Steps to be the start of Phase 6. But that leaves one thing.
No!
In 2023, Disney made some changes. Sensing a public distaste for 5 shows and 3 movies a year, they pulled back, scaled down, retooled a bunch of projects like Daredevil and Thunderbolts. And they were careful not to overwhelm audiences, so they spaced things out, gave them room to breathe. And it sort of seems like one show got lost in the shuffle, Ironheart, because there was just never a great time for it. So it seems like Marvel settled on mid-2025, since this thing has to get released eventually, which means people online got the sense that Marvel was dumping it, getting it off the slate so they could focus on other things.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were excited
That's exactly
about it, why weren't they
correct.
in a rush to get it out? And that may be the case.
Yep.
But the trailer kind of worked on me. And no, I'm not talking about the 5 seconds Ironheart got in the Look Ahead trailer, although it did have some strong visuals that we haven't seen before. But the leaked D23 trailer told more of a story. It introduces a Riri who, after being kicked out of MIT, joins up with some sort of crew that does heists led by Anthony Ramos's Parker Robbins, who in this goes by the Hood, but it probably makes more sense here because he's either doing this for the neighborhood or he's doing this as a Robin Hood thing. It always bugged me because the usual Hood in the comics is named after the hood he is wearing, except it is not a hood. It's a cloak, but there's already a guy named Cloak, so they made this guy Hood. It's a stupid name. Anyway, heists are cool. I also think the Ironheart suit looks great. People have complained for a while about how the recent nanomachine
Looks like
suits
shit.
look fake. But because Riri has to start at square one and she can't just 3D print the suits, it seems like creating them and maintaining them is going to make these suits feel a lot more real. And the suit-up shots look great. Is this a project that I'm most looking forward to? Definitely not. But could be fun. It doesn't need to either, but could be. But you know what needs to be fun? Really fun.
Yeah, fair. True.
Fantastic Four First Steps needs to be an absolute grand.
Joshua says, Thunderbolts is my most anticipated project behind Daredevil. Oh! Yeah, I would say for me, it's, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think it's number 1, Fantastic Four. Number 1, Fantastic Four. Number 2, Daredevil. Number 3, Thunderbolts.
And slam in a bunch of ways. 2 important ones. needs to be a better representation of these characters than we have seen on screen before, and it needs to showcase a fresh side of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe can be. Fortunately for the first family, I think these are achievable goals. First off, let's look at the better representation of these characters. We don't know a lot about their personalities, but what we can read from their designs suggests they're going as close to the comics as possible. I loved Michael Chiklis' Thing as much as the next guy, but he looked like a guy in a big rubber suit. No shade, they worked with what they had. But if the live-action Thing looks anything like the design in this piece of promotional art, this will easily be the most physically faithful version of the character to date, and that bodes incredibly well for the rest of the family and their rogues gallery. But
that is totally fair, except for Pedro, right? And again, I'm coming around to the Pedro thing. I think in a lot of the set photos and whatnot, he looks good, but yeah.
Aside for a second, the Fantastic Four can be deep characters. And again, no shade on Johan Grufford or Jessica Alba, but the cast of this thing is perhaps the strongest of any Marvel film. They're all pretty much breakout stars. You've got a...
I guess that's fair. You know what I mean? I would have to say that's fair. Now, I'm a little jaded on this because following the rumors as closely as I do, I understand that they were going after way bigger A-list than even these characters. So Margot Robbie could have been Sue Storm. Adam Driver could have been Reed Richards. But it is fair to say that this is still a pretty stellar cast. They are on the rise in a lot of ways, for sure.
Reed and Pedro Pascal coming off an award-nominated performance as Last of Us' Joel, then Pieces of a Woman's Vanessa Kirby as Sue, Stranger Things' Season 4 and Gladiator 2's Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and then the Bears have been Moss Bacharach as The Thing. And they're joined by Ralph Ineson, Julia Gardner, Natasha Lyonne, Paul Walter Hauser, and John Malkovich.
Yeah,
I saw someone say it before, but it's true. If this was the cast of an A24 movie, people would be losing their mind. So
that is 100% true. That's fair. It's a fair point. I'm excited for F4, but still pissed it's not Krasinski. Yeah, a little bit me too. A little bit me too.
Between fantastic visuals and inspired casting, this group has so much potential to bring a version of these four to the screen that captures everything comic fans love about the characters. But then how are they doing something new? Well, the story is set in an alternate universe that's some sort of 1960s retro future tech utopia, and that story is being crafted by an admittedly large team. It's written by, among others, Avatar 2 and Kingdom for the Planet of the Apes' Josh Friedman, Transformers 1 and Thor Ragnarok's Eric Pearson, and Carnival Row and WandaVision's Peter Cameron. This is a team of writers capable of inventing or expanding upon exciting new worlds and societies, and they are being directed by WandaVision's Matt Shakman. These are projects with impeccable production design and couldn't make this...
Also, don't forget Matt Shakman directed a ton of Always Sunny, and I know that's going to sound crazy, but the gang is kind of like the Fantastic Four. So great crossover.
Feel like something we've never seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe before, the same way that Ragnarok and WandaVision were breaths of fresh air.
Fair.
The leaked D23 trailers seem to serve largely to showcase the Fantastic Four's new world by taking these familiar TV settings like a documentary and a dating game and a kids TV show and using them to contextualize these characters, have them fill familiar archetypes. I think that's really clever. If this goes right, Fantastic Four First Steps could be Marvel's next Guardians of the Galaxy or Black Panther type hit, one that opens up a new corner of the universe and attracts creatives who wouldn't otherwise have any interest in these movies. And the great thing about the Fantastic Four is there is so much ground yet to cover compared to everything in Marvel besides the X-Men. Take those other two I just mentioned. According to the Marvel Fan and Wiki, which is really good about this stuff, Rocket Raccoon has the most comic appearances of any OG Guardian with 423. T'Challa has 1,234 comic appearances. The Thing has 2,370.
Yep.
There are a lot of Fantastic Four stories left to tell.
Totally.
Speaking of T'Challa.
So, just to sort of add into this, right, a little bit further context, he's not really touching on any of the rumors and stuff like that. Fantastic Four has Galactus. Fantastic Four has Franklin Richards. Fantastic Four potentially has the Council of Reeds, Doctor Doom. Yeah, I mean, they're cooking with gas. If they're actually using some of the Jonathan Hickman stuff, which is the Future Foundation, like that's where that comes from, then they have like fertile ground of some of the best, not only Fantastic Four stories, but just in general Marvel stories that were ever told. So incredibly cool stuff that they are cooking with. This movie also being the precursor to Doomsday, to RDJ Doctor Doom, and all the multiverse craziness that's going to happen in Secret Wars, that's also a huge deal. So Very excited. Axe Arc says, Baby Yoda eating the frog eggs should be more controversial. They even made a Funko Pop. All right.
Before I started writing this video, I didn't really know what Eyes of Wakanda
all right,
was.
What do you want me to say to that? Baby Yoda's a monster? Grogu should be canceled? You want me to start a fucking hashtag or a petition? What do you want from me?
And that's because, one, it's not really based off any specific comic, and two, Marvel's been pretty tight-lipped on this one. Here's what we know. It's 4 episodes, produced by Ryan Coogler.
And all I have to say about female Silver Surfer is she better be hot as fuck. I agree.
Not that other thing he seemed to be working on, which was an Okoye spinoff or something. Who knows what happened to that? It's created by Todd Harris, an artist who has worked on many Marvel storyboards, including for both Black Panthers and even the Wakanda Voices comic. It's an animated anthology set in the past that seems to chronicle the adventures of historical Black Panthers we have otherwise not yet met. It's 4 issues. We've seen a tiny bit, and it looks completely different from the What If style and the X-Men 97 and the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man styles.
True.
We
This
don't
is all
know
true.
which Black Panthers will show up. Apparently, there's a new character named Nori in there somewhere, and also
a different Iron Fist as well. Josh, oh, I already read that.
So, alleged spoilers, an Iron Fist will show up in at least 1 episode, but not Danny Rand. It looks very cool, and while I wish it had at least a full 8-episode season, this feels like the kind of passion project that people will get excited about once they see more, and then who knows, maybe a second season will be bigger. Speaking of excitement, Lee,
I don't know, brother. I don't see anything within the footage they showed that gets me excited. You know, that animation style in and of itself doesn't do anything for me. It needs like characters to breathe life into it. It needs action sequences for there to be stakes and, you know, fun. I haven't seen anything about Eyes of Wakanda that makes me excited. Now, the rumors about it are kind of exciting. If it is a show that they literally spent $20 million on, then, like, yeah, it's probably going to go nuts. Like, the animation's going to get really crazy. The Iron Fist thing's interesting. Different Black Panthers is interesting. Wakanda's role in the MCU in the past is also interesting. But, like, I can't lie. Like, the only things we've seen are those few shots he showed. None of that gets me excited. For real.
leading to longer seasons. Let's talk about a spin-off from What If Season 1.
Delta Dan, thanks for gifting a membership. Appreciate you.
In 2025, Marvel is continuing its somewhat consistent tradition of releasing spooky Disney Plus stuff around Halloween. This
that's
started
true.
in 2022 with Werewolf by Night and continued this year with Agatha All Along.
True.
And in Halloween 2025, we're getting an entire series of Marvel zombies. All right, entire series is a bit generous since it's also only 4 episodes, but still better than nothing.
You know what? It's kind of interesting. So, if Eyes of Wakanda and Zombies only being 4 episodes, I got to be real. Like, that actually is, it's going to sound weird, but I'm actually excited about that because, like, I don't want to linger on any of these projects. You know what I mean? Like, give me a little taste. Like, okay, let's see if we like it, and then let's move the fuck on. Because if those had persisted, like, just as an example, Daredevil Born Again, I think, is 9 episodes. It's more episodes than both of these shows combined. And I think that's good.
Since this one is also quite late in the year, we don't know much, but we do have some promotional art that gives us a sense for which characters are involved. And like What If Season 3, it's the Phase 4 and 5ers. One thing that some people, myself included, are very excited about, this is one of the few 2025 projects with some Eternals. We've got Icarus confirmed and probably others. We've also got Kingo showing up in What If, and I wouldn't be shocked if the MCU's most famous Bollywood star also had something to do with the last Marvel project of 2025, which we'll get to. Another fun thing about zombies, it's R-rated, so that's neat. Probably gonna mostly be characters getting ripped limb from limb, but I wouldn't mind an F-bomb or two. And this does continue the story that began in the What If Zombies episode from Season 1, so we're starting with most of the Avengers gone, a zombified Thanos, and still no Thor. I feel like this and What If are really pushing the MCU forward past Endgame. Spending more time with alternate versions of these new characters will make the real ones feel like staples of the universe, as important as Captain America or Iron Man, and that's what's gonna keep.
Will it, though? I would argue people have already decided that they don't matter as much. They're not as engaged. And I would argue that the reluctance of the studio to accept this and try to continue to crank out content with these characters is actually hurting. And it's like, like that's what I think is holding What If back, and I think ultimately that's what's going to hold a lot of this other stuff back, including zombies. It's like we actually don't care about these characters as much, and it's starting to feel like they're being forced on us. That's my opinion. And if there is a large contingent of fans that feel like Nando does, where the fuck are they? Because they're not showing up in the Nielsen chart numbers. They're not showing up to boost this stuff. I don't think they exist. Not to say that he isn't being authentic. I think there are people that probably share this opinion. But I think the vast majority of fans are like, brother, stop trying to make fetch happen. Like, it's not going to happen. Stop trying to make Kingo happen. Like, holy.
Keep the MCU fresh. Also, Blade is debuting in Marvel Zombies, but as Moon Knight, because that's where we are with Blade right now. And that leaves one big project to finish out 2025.
Yeah, this fucking show. I wonder, man. I wonder, man. Why did they make this show? Holy.
Closing out the year, I have really high hopes for Wonder Man. For people who are not familiar, in the comics, Simon Williams is a trust fund kid who gets incredible ionic superpowers, but then dies and comes back to life a bunch. He's usually an Avenger, and he's been in relationships with Carol and Wanda. He hangs out with Beast, but what he is probably mostly known for is taking a break from avenging and becoming an actor. And that idea seems to be the pitch behind the Wonder Man series that's showing up at the end of 2025. Simon Williams is an actor who seems to be trying to get the role of Wonder Man in some sort of movie. Whether he has superpowers at this point has yet to be seen, but I can see it working both ways. Either he has the powers and is trying to cash in on them and needs to learn to use his powers for good or something, or maybe Simon lies on his resume to make it seem like he has superpowers so he gets the part of a superpowered character. I'm not sure how that lie would work, like maybe based on some misunderstood public display. People think he has superpowers and he just goes with it and uses it to get ahead in Hollywood. Think Chicken Run or Rango or Road to El Dorado. Or it could be something completely different. Either way, I think Marvel is pretty strong when it comes to comedy, and they've got Andrew Guest, one of the writers behind some episodes of 30 Rock, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Community working on this one. And Guest did not just write any Community episode, he wrote, among others, Fistful of Paintballs and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And
those are great episodes. It's too bad the Dungeons and Dragons one was removed. It's an incredible episode. And they fucking censored it, took it down everywhere because the guy dressed up as a dark elf and they said it was blackface. Fucking A.
This is an area of the MCU I am really curious about. What is entertainment like in a universe full of actual superheroes? We've seen it in the background, like the movies that everybody's watching.
I wish it would have stayed in the background. I really don't give a shit about it.
On the plane in Spider-Man Far From Home or the Steve Rogers musical. It is my favorite kind of world building. The stuff that The Boys does so well.
That's your favorite kind of world building?
And then the cast for this one, we've got basically live-action superhero Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Simon. Then Ben Kingsley's back as Trevor Slattery, who appears to be Simon's acting coach. Ed Harris is playing Simon's agent. And then Demetrius Gross is Simon's brother Eric, who becomes a supervillain eventually. Listen, there's no guarantee this one is good, but I've been really hoping for something in the vein of She-Hulk.
Well, I think he's going to get exactly what he wants, which is why I am not that excited.
This feels as close as we're going to get. Plus, once he's introduced, Simon can play a lot of roles that he usually does in the comics. He's the Avengers pacifist. He's Vision's brain twin, and he's a founding member of the West Coast Avengers, a team that's shaping up nicely over the last few years. So what does all this mean? I don't know. While there are some movies and shows that it sure would be nice if they worked, there are a few that absolutely need to for this saga to be a success.
Fair.
Fantastic Four First Steps and Daredevil Born Again specifically have a lot riding on their shoulders. Thunderbolts and Wonder Man look like they could be fun surprises, and if the rest are good, that's a nice bonus. So I guess what this really means is you're going to have a lot of stuff to watch in 2025, and a lot of it is going to be streaming. So you want to make sure that your internet connection is safe, but also...
Okay, we're going to end the video there. Hey, look, good video by Nando. I don't actually watch a lot of his content, and I think I kind of get a feel for how he is with Marvel at this point. And I think that, look, the truth is he just represents a kind of different fan than me, and that's fine. There's all sorts of different fans, and there's room for all sorts of different fans, right? But yeah, I just don't. I don't think we have similar tastes. I think there's some things that he values that I don't, and probably vice versa. I still think he made a lot of good points about what's at stake for some of the shows, what's the intrigue, what are some of the pitfalls. Yeah. So overall, good video. Good video. You know, I just like, brother. What do you mean you want more She-Hulk? Like, you could fit all the people that want more She-Hulk into a relatively small sized room. And frankly, I wish you did. And lock the door. Because no. No. You don't say that. You don't say that. Okay, anyway, let's catch up on some chats that I missed, and then we'll get on out of here. Verse says, yo, Josh, I wasn't hyped for Fantastic Four. Your It's Just Pedro rant is still my fave. But now I'm stoked. If Marvel nails the FF, Doom, Star Wars, Secret Wars, and more, they could really redeem the Multiverse Saga. I agree. I think they got it, man. Do you not vet these before we watch them? Some I do, some I do not. I did not vet this one. I probably still would have watched it, though. I mean, I think Nando's good. I think the video's good. I think he's got a lot of, interesting points. It's just like, damn, dude, people call me like a Marvel shill and shit sometimes, and I'm just like, yo, like, yeah, I don't know about that shit, bro. I don't know about all of that shit, bro. Anyway, I think what is clear is Marvel has a lot of projects, and to his credit, Nando is a big Marvel fan. He's been supportive of the MCU for a long time, so got to give him credit for that. And there's obviously people that feel the same way as him. I'd like to believe we could live in a world where there could be stuff like Wonder Man, and then there could be stuff like Daredevil. And maybe it's okay that I like the one and not the other, and it's fine. But I think what people like Nando potentially miss is the damage that has been done by some of these shows. And like Marvel becomes kind of guilty by association in many ways. They need to sort of hard pivot and signal change. And it's difficult to do that when you're still doing stuff that was literally greenlit at a time when you're corporate identity was completely out of step with what the audience was actually going to do. So it's almost like the antithesis of what I said about the Daredevil thing, where I said, like, if Daredevil becomes as successful as I think it could be, that becomes a boon for Marvel to like change everything and even lean harder in that direction. Marvel's always been eclectic. There are all kinds of characters and stories, and that is fine. But I think you have to deliver to the biggest portion of your audience the most like consistent shit. And then that builds the brand strength over time. I mean, yeah. Tim O'Brien says 21 months? No Avengers for life, Ranch Avengers for life. Josh will come around to Ranch eventually. No, never. But much love to you, Josh, in this community. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the love. Josh, a completely insane thought, but while watching the all butcher Loki skin in Marvel Rivals and reading the comic lore, I had an interesting thought. What if after Doom steals Loki's powers, Noel bonds with Loki in Battleworld movie or Secret Wars in order to become or fight Doom in a rematch? That's crazy, but it's the exact kind of crazy that like I'm into. I love that kind of shit. I don't anticipate that being a thing, but wouldn't be mad if it was. That could be super cool. Yeah, appreciate you, Fearsome Halo, over on Twitch. Yeah. Trying to watch She-Hulk is like nails on a chalkboard. I think there are some good things in She-Hulk, but over time, all of the annoying shit to me and the lack of like actual substance just really made me turn on the show. I think that show is borderline offensive to like everybody. I just think it's a fucking offensive show. And I think it's one of the shows like, I think this was a take that Grace had actually. W take Grace, but she said the show's a show that makes fun of its own fans and then gets shocked that those same fans don't like it. Like, do you know what I mean? And like that was the strategy of She-Hulk. Like the strategy of She-Hulk was to be irreverent and rub some of the shit in the fans' faces. And maybe at the time there was like maybe the jury was out on whether or not that could work, right? We had seen people like what's her name? Like Andy Gutierrez or whatever, the lady that did the Star Wars show. She's literally posting videos of like Luke Skywalker fan tears and shit like that. And like, you know, it starts to become this thing where like maybe you don't make fun of the very fans that pay the bills. You know, Joker 2 is another great example. I saw people say that in the chat. Same thing. Maybe don't tell all the Joker fans they're stupid as fuck for worshiping the Joker. Joker was never real and everything sucks. And he's literally going to get, you know, butt humped by the guards and shit. Like, maybe don't do that. And unfortunately, She-Hulk did choose to do that. And maybe they thought, oh, it could be like quirky and fun, and maybe some of the fans would actually really enjoy that. And maybe they did. I mean, maybe that's why Nando likes it. But, and that's fine. Like, however you enjoy shit is totally fine. But for me, nah, man, that ain't it. And also, I like my job, and I didn't like what I had to do during that time period for my job, because it's like when you have to go into work and there's major drama at work. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to go to work, like, after a couple breaks up that was a work couple, or, you know, this guy ratted on this guy, now he's suspended and shit like that. It's just like, it's a crazy work environment. The environment of discourse around She-Hulk was terrible. I remember people coming after me because I actually defended the first episode. Me and Angry Joe both defended the first episode despite the crazy feminist rant. Because I was like, guys, look, like, is that shit cringe? Absolutely. Does it kill the entire episode for me? No. Does it feel like that could be She-Hulk from the comics? Yes. But then they just double, triple down, and it sort of showed itself over time. And I was like, right? Alex M says, what's up, Josh? Quick question. Are the Eternals going to show up in these next Avenger movies, or are they just going to ignore them? I think they'll actually ignore them for a little bit here. Yeah. Vagabond of Light says, is the darker Daredevil tone too different? Is it pushing brand diversity instead of brand unity, like your point about Andor and Star Wars? That's a great question. And I've said this before, but maybe it's been some time since I've said this. Marvel is not Star Wars. They have different problems. So Marvel Comics has like this 75 plus year history of being very eclectic. That means different. Like, there's different flavors that make up Marvel. That's just inherent to the comic book medium. Even your own favorite character has had different eras, right? Daredevil's a good example of this. There are Daredevil times where it's like super dark. You know, you got your like Frank Miller shit or your Charles Soule shit. But then there's times where they take him to San Francisco and he's like love and life and you know what I mean? Like, they do different things with even their established characters. Star Wars is not like that. Star Wars is a very unique brand in that it spun its own like fame and universe basically out of movies. Right? So these were movies George made. They popped off. Then there's like a universe created outside of that. And some of the stuff created outside of it tends to maybe get away from the overall formula. But you have a singular dude with a singular vision creating this Star Wars content. And then the prequels, like, a lot of people that didn't like the prequels don't like it because it was so different from the OT. But spoiler alert, if George had the technology then, the OT would have looked way more like the prequels. The prequels are way more aligned to George's actual vision for Star Wars. And as a person who defends the prequels, I think it's actually on point. I think there's a through line between the OT and the prequels, and it still feels very Star Warsy to me. You know, it's very operatic. The dialogue's wild. It's all thematic based on family and darkness and, you know, internal struggles and all that sort of stuff, like modern mythology. So that's a very long-winded way of saying Star Wars has to be like Star Wars because Star Wars was created by one fucking dude who had one vibe and vision for what it could be. Comics were never like that. Marvel was never like that. So they're separate. They don't have they're not held to the same standard. Does that make sense? But I've made this point before. And by the way, this is actually a huge benefit to Marvel. It has allowed Marvel to sort of do that, where they create these different tones and do these different things, and it works. Right? Photo by Michael says, "What up, fam? I'm Thailand, 12 hours ahead. Fun watching at midnight." You're in Thailand right now? What are you doing in Thailand, man? Or are you not allowed to say? You doing some crazy shit over there? What are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, so there are other examples of this. Like, I think the Lord of the Rings example is great. Part of the reason that Rings of Power doesn't really fly with a lot of fans is because it's Tolkien. Like, fucking Lord of the Rings is Tolkien, right? Probably a similar thing with Dune. When you have it really depends on how the thing is created and how does it get sort of birthed into the zeitgeist. Yeah. That's why I don't fault people having different opinions on Marvel stuff, even if they're wrong. Yeah, I think that's fair. And this has been a benefit to what Marvel's able to do. Yeah. Dune is on point, in my humble opinion. Yeah. Dune is also like Herbert stuff. Now, what they're currently doing with Dune is kind of weird because they're using some of the Brian Herbert stuff, which is his son, Frank's son. Frank's son wrote a couple of books that were about the Bene Gesserit, and they are prequels to Dune, the Herbert books. You know, technically Tolkien has some stuff that his son did too. Like, I think his son takes parts of like the lost works and does something. I don't know if it ever connected the same way. Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. Love and life. Try not to be old and go out here. Fair enough, brother. Fair enough. I'll never forget being 18 in the theater watching The Phantom Menace and never wanting to walk out because of Jar Jar. 1999. Yep. Just felt like ride and says, missed my second super chat. Mentioned Incursions. All right, let me check it out. Also, we need the Incursions in Strange 3. We really need that context to let all the Secret Wars cameos fluidly connect. Respectfully. I think a lot of that's going to now be pushed into Fantastic Four and Doomsday. I think between Fantastic Four and Doomsday, I think you're going to get a lot of that stuff filled out, hopefully. Because it seems like Doctor Strange 3 is going to be pushed. It seems like Doctor Strange 3 is going to be pushed. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, kind of interesting. But either way, guys, I appreciate you. Thanks for being here on your daily dose of nerdy news and content. Like I said, hopefully I'll get a video out probably tomorrow for you guys. Maybe a big video over the weekend. We will stream tomorrow. No Diamond Lounge this week. I'm pushing that into next week just because I'm super burnt out and I need to try to get some rest. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Much love. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video. I missed your chat about zombies. What the hell? Set up King Dead. Nice. I mean, maybe. Maybe. Maybe it'll explain head pool. All right, peace out.
What made this one?
Is everybody gone? Did everybody leave? Leave. Another happy landing. Another happy landing. Good stream. Appreciate you guys, man. It was fun. Fun to talk about the news, speculate a little bit, watch that video get triggered. It was a great time. Unbelievable. And I'll have you know, I took special care to not completely fall down the deep dark hole of Warhammer today. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to just go all in on the Warhammer, but I was like, nah, let's keep it chill. You know, we don't want to get anybody too upset about Warhammer, so let's just try to keep the Warhammer talk chill. By the way, Justin, you still got to give me your address so I can send you a bunch of Warhammer. And I appreciate you all. Thank you so much, man. Much love. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Remember, open up your third eye. And wash out your stinky butt. Warhammer is the greatest IP that's ever been created, and soon you will know the truth of the God Emperor of.